Hey everyone! Welcome back to the show, where we dive into the world of cinema, stories, and stars who keep redefining what it means to be fearless on screen. Today's spotlight is on two of Hollywood's most talented and commanding actresses, Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Maika Monroe, who are teaming up for a brand new psychological thriller titled The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Now, if that title sounds familiar, you're absolutely right. It's inspired by the classic 1992 film of the same name, a chilling, edge-of-your-seat story about trust, obsession, and betrayal. But this time around, it's not a remake in the traditional sense. It's a bold reimagining for a modern generation with a darker, more psychological tone. In this new version, Mary Elizabeth Winstead plays Rachel, a successful architect whose life begins to unravel after hiring a live-in caretaker for her child. Maika Monroe plays Evelyn, the caretaker whose friendly charm slowly turns into something far more sinister. It's a story about control, manipulation, and the terrifying ways people can invade our lives under the guise of kindness. During their recent press interviews, both actresses opened up about what drew them to this film, and how it continues the tradition of women-led thrillers that both of them have become known for. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's no stranger to the genre, said something really interesting. "I've always loved psychological thrillers where the danger feels human, where it's not about ghosts or monsters, but about what people are capable of when they lose empathy." And if you followed her career, you know exactly what she means. From 10, Cloverfield Lane to Death Proof and Birds of Prey, Winstead has built a filmography filled with complex, layered women who can be vulnerable and strong at the same time. In The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, she takes that balance to another level, portraying a woman who begins as confident and collected, but slowly unravels as her reality starts to twist. Maika Monroe, on the other hand, has been dubbed one of modern cinema's scream queens, and for good reason. Her breakout role in It Follows cemented her place in the horror genre. She's since appeared in films like The Guest, Watcher, and Significant Other, each performance more haunting and restrained than the last. But when asked about the Scream Queen label, both Maika and Mary had a lot to say. Maika admitted, "It's flattering in a way because it means people associate you with strong work in horror or thriller films, but I don't want it to box me in. Horror has always been about more than just screams. It's about survival, emotion, and power." Mary Elizabeth Winstead agreed, adding, "People forget that being called a scream queen used to be seen as limiting. But now, it's kind of empowering. These are women who carry entire films on their shoulders, who fight their way through fear, and that's pretty incredible." And, honestly, that perspective feels refreshing. Gone are the days when the Scream Queen label meant a damsel in distress. Today, it's about women leading the charge, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically, in stories that are dark, intense, and unforgettable. In The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, the chemistry between the two actresses is electric. Early reports from test screenings have described their performances as psychological warfare at its finest. You can feel the tension building scene by scene, the subtle glances, the polite smiles that hide suspicion, and the slow burn of paranoia that builds to an explosive finale. Director Jonathan Wright described the film as a story about two women locked in a silent battle for control, where every gesture, every word, every smile can be a weapon. He also mentioned that the film explores motherhood and identity in unsettling ways, showing how far people will go to protect or possess what they believe is theirs. Now, what's really fascinating about this pairing is how both Mary and Maika approach their roles so differently. Mary brings a grounded, emotional weight, her performance often simmering beneath the surface. Maika, meanwhile, plays Evelyn with an eerie calm, the kind of stillness that makes you nervous even when she's just standing still. In their interview, the two actresses joked about how they balance such intense scenes with moments of laughter on set. Maika said, "Between takes, we just cracked jokes because some scenes were so heavy. You need that release, otherwise it stays with you." Mary added, We'd shoot a really disturbing scene, and 5 minutes later, Maika would be making me laugh so hard I'd forget what just happened. It was a wild experience. And that's part of what makes this project special. There's genuine chemistry and mutual respect between the two stars. They both understand the weight of female-led thrillers, and they both wanted to bring something fresh to the genre. In fact, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is already being compared to films like Gone Girl, The Invisible Man, and Fatal Attraction, movies that blend psychological horror with emotional complexity. But according to both actresses, this film isn't just about fear. It's about power, trust, and how easily the line between protection and obsession can blur. Mary said, "At its core, this film is about women, their instincts, their fears, and how they navigate trust in a world that often tests them. It's less about being scared and more about being unsettled by what we recognize in ourselves." Maika agreed, adding, "We didn't want the story to feel one-dimensional. You can understand both characters in some ways, and that's what makes it scary. It's not black and white. It's gray, it's emotional, and it's real." Critics who've seen early previews have praised the film's atmosphere, calling it claustrophobic, visually stunning, and emotionally charged. The cinematography uses reflections, shadows, and domestic settings to create a sense of intimacy that quickly turns suffocating. It's a film that feels close, almost too close, making you question the people you let into your home. Both actresses have also been vocal about how empowering it felt to play such multidimensional female roles. Mary mentioned, "It's refreshing to play a woman who isn't perfect. She's strong, but she's flawed, and those flaws make her real." Maika added, "There's so much depth in fear. It exposes everything about who you are. That's what makes thrillers like this so addictive to watch." And honestly, that's what makes both Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Maika Monroe so fascinating as performers. They don't just play fear, they live inside it. They don't scream for shock value. They use silence, expression, and emotion to pull you into their world. As the release date approaches, fans of both actresses are buzzing with anticipation. On social media, fans have already begun calling them the ultimate scream queen duo. But both Mary and Maika hope the film sparks deeper conversations about control, trust, and womanhood, beyond just the scares. Mary summed it up beautifully when she said, "If audiences leave feeling shaken but also emotionally connected, that's the best kind of horror." And that's exactly what The Hand That Rocks the Cradle promises to deliver, a film that doesn't just make your heart race, but makes you think long after the credits roll. Two brilliant women, one gripping story, and a haunting question. How well do you really know the people you let into your life?